We have condemned in the strongest terms attacks against Nigerians and other African nationals living in South Africa.
What has happened does not represent the values of the peoples of Nigeria and the values of the peoples of South Africa.
Nigeria and South Africa endorse early warning mechanism to nip xenophobic attacks in the board.
On Tuesday, 8th October 2019, to formally present the 2020 appropriation bill.
President Buhari is set to present 2020 budget to Joint National Assembly on Tuesday next week as the House approves Joint Committee reports on medium-term expenditure.
The Supreme Court, that is the last court, has struck it out.
Supreme Court dismisses appeal filed by Hope Democratic Party challenging the victory of President Buhari at the last presidential poll. And the Sport Super Falcons play goalless against Cote d'Ivoire in Olympic qualifiers. Good evening and welcome to Network News. I am Kenan Ima Abodike. Reading together tonight is Hengino John Adams from Lagos. Nigeria and South Africa have resolved to deepen existing strategic relations by working together towards enhancing political, economic and social cooperation in the interests of their peoples. In a joint communique after the inaugural session of the elevated Nigeria-South Africa binational, the countries also promised to jointly pursue sustainable peace and economic development on the continent in the context of AU Agenda 2063 and the Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo has that report.
The Nigeria-South Africa Binational Commission has been in existence for nearly 20 years. For the first time, however, it has been elevated to the level of heads of state in a renewed determination by the two countries to, amongst others, institutionalize their relations, significantly increase and diversify trade, and make conditions conducive for greater investment flows. Speaking at the opening of the inaugural session, President Muhammadu Buhari spoke of the need for the two countries to seek opportunities towards expanding their cooperation in critical economic sectors for the benefit of their peoples.
We are pleased to inform you that our government has made doing business in Nigeria easier through the Ease of Doing Business initiative to open up more opportunities for investors in Nigeria. We call on the government of South Africa to also take steps to ease the doing of business in the country and open up its market space for Nigerian businessmen and women. We are determined on our part to sustain the renewed vigor of the strategic partnership between Nigeria and South Africa, anchored on regular consultation, collaboration, and cooperation.
During the meeting, which continued behind closed doors, progress report was presented on the 32 agreements and memoranda of understanding signed between the two countries over the years. These are in the areas of trade and industry, science and technology, defense, agriculture, energy, transport, and tourism. The two leaders committed themselves to ensuring that those in force are fully implemented and the others yet to be enforced be revived immediately.
We are in the process of further deepening our reforms so that we can make it a lot easier for our economies to be open to businesses. We want to welcome more and more Nigerian businesses to operate in our space. We want South Africa has a number of large corporations that operate in the Nigerian market. In the South African market, many of them are small and medium enterprises. We want to address this imbalance so that we have more and more slightly larger Nigerian companies coming to operate here. And the various incentives that we have as a government will obviously also be available to them.
We agreed on the need for us to strengthen even further our cooperation in areas such as peace building, good governance, and sustainable development in Africa in order to deliver the Africa we want. We have also committed to reinforcing our leadership role for peace, security, and development in Africa.
President Ramaphosa in particular used the opportunity to once again express his country's appreciation to Nigeria for the sacrifices made towards freeing South Africa from the shackles of colonialism and imperialism. From Pretoria, South Africa, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
Meanwhile, determined to find lasting solutions to the recurring act of violence against foreign nationals, especially Nigerians in South Africa, President Muhammadu Buhari and the South African leader Cyril Ramaphosa have endorsed the establishment of an early warning mechanism aimed at nipping in the bud potential threats to such violence. Briefing newsmen after their high-level talks on the matter and other areas of common interest. The two leaders directed their ministers of foreign affairs to give practical expression to the initiative as preventive and monitoring platform. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo once again has details.
It was a very warm and highly befitting reception for President Muhammadu Buhari by his South African counterpart Cyril Ramaphosa as he arrived at the seat of government, otherwise referred to as the Union Building in Pretoria. Apart from a 21-gun salute, a ceremonial guard of honor was also mounted by a detachment of South African armed forces to formally welcome the Nigerian leader on the historic and remarkably significant invitational visit. The two leaders of the largest economies in Africa then retreated for high-level talks on issues of concern towards enhancing relations between the two countries. Most critical is the recurring acts of hostility against Nigerians and other foreign nationals in South Africa.
Mr. President, we have condemned in the strongest terms attacks against Nigerians and other African nationals living in South Africa, the looting of their shops and businesses and burning of their properties. We call for the strengthening and implementation of all the necessary measures to prevent the reoccurrence of such action which threatens to undermine not only our strong bilateral relations but also what we stand for in the context of our vision for a strong and prosperous Africa we want.
At a joint media briefing shortly after, both leaders promised to work more closely towards finding lasting solutions.
What has happened does not represent the values of the peoples of Nigeria and the values of the peoples of South Africa. And as leaders, both President Buhari and I will not tolerate them. And to make sure that we take steps moving forward, that we bring an end to these, we've agreed that early warning mechanisms will be set up so that once we see that there's restiveness in both our people's sort of side, we will be able to inform one another, to find ways and active ways of ensuring that we do not have recurrences.
It's a question of competition at very low levels. It means that our respective police forces and security agencies must be very alert. They must infiltrate the communities, know their thinking, and make sure they don't allow violence to escalate.
Some members of the Nigerian delegation to South Africa described the high-level engagement as appropriate, timely, and reassuring.
Mr. President is a man of very high integrity, and he doesn't compromise, his integrity, and we has displayed it, by insisting that those who were wrongly attacked, those who were property were, illegally burnt, that the South Africa should address it, and so he has acted as usual, as the father of our great nation, Nigeria.
The type of confusion that is existing among the people is not tolerable, it's not acceptable, But I think with the dialogue between the two heads of governments, I think that problem, we are on the way on solving that problem.
I saw a lot of passion in all of them, in their resolve, first commitment, and also their desire to protect their people, and also not beyond, looking even beyond their country as leaders in Africa. Things that we thought were going to be issues that were going to be irreconcilable, within a short time, maturity in leadership, it was diplomatically sorted out. And so we are now looking forward to implementation.
President Buhari's engagements in South Africa continue. From Pretoria, South Africa, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
President Muhammadu Buhari will on Tuesday, October the 8th, present the 2020 appropriation bill at a joint session of the National Assembly. This follows the approval of a presidential communication to that effect at Thursday's plenary at the House of Representatives. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports.
The President's communication requesting the House to approve presentation of the 2020 budget before a joint session of the National Assembly was read by the Speaker, Femi Gbajabiamila, after which the House voted its approval.
May I crave the kind indulgence of the House of Representatives to grant me the slot of 1400 hours on Tuesday, 8th October 2019, to formally present the 2020 appropriation bill. Those in support of the motion, please say aye. Those against, please say nay. The ayes have it.
House members also approved recommendations of the National Assembly Joint Committees on Finance and Appropriation on the Medium-Term Expenditure Framework and Fiscal Strategy paper for 2020 to 2022. The 16-point approvals include an increase of federal government's expenditure for 2020 from 10.002 trillion to 10.794 trillion naira, oil production output of 2.18 million barrels per day, $57 per barrel as crude oil benchmark, and an exchange rate of 305 naira to a dollar. The lawmakers commended the Nigeria Customs Service for exceeding its targeted revenue for 2019 as at September, despite global economic challenges and closure of Nigerian borders.
Customs collection is 408.17 billion, or 100.5% of the projection as of June 2019.
In the meantime, the House, as the Committee of the Whole, considered and approved the legislative agenda for the 9th House of Representatives.
The Speaker, in his inaugural address, was very clear about the mission of this House. He was very clear that we are not only going to have a sense of mission, but also a sense of nation.
It has to do with what will make us have an improved House, guide us in the conduct of what we are supposed to be pursuing, for this purpose of giving out the best to the country.
In the course of plenary, Representative Haruna Dederi raised an observation on the non-formation of a quorum, and this elicited response and clarifications.
When members come into the chambers and they are physically seated, irrespective of whether they sign the register or not, when they are physically seated and Mr. Speaker in chair believes that we have formed quorum, members also believed along with the Speaker that quorum is established. So at the commencement of sitting, then we are firing on like that, quorum is formed. The only way you can ascertain whether we do not form quorum is to bring the register and cross-check if we form quorum. Members have gone for committees work, members have gone for investigative hearing and otherwise. And when you call them for any voting, Mr. Speaker, they will immediately come here and conform with the quorum that is registered in the registry books that we have over there.
What it does is it encourages members to come to sitting. It doesn't even look good if you are considering very important matters and there are only 20 members on the floor of the House.
Other matters approved as plenary include a motion on the need for active participation of Parliament in anniversary celebration of Nigeria's independence, while 3 bills sponsored by House Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila, one of which seeks to prohibit and criminalize estimated billing by electricity distribution companies and to ensure installation of prepaid meters, were adopted. From the National Assembly, Lami Ali, NTA News.
The 2020-2022 Medium-Term Expenditure Framework and Fiscal Strategy paper approved by the Senate is positioned to enhance economic growth and ensure inclusiveness, promote economic diversification, and ensure sustainable budget deficit level. National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Nkwo reports that the Senate approved 10.7 trillion naira for the 2020 budget as recommended by the National Assembly Joint Committee on Finance and National Planning.
On Thursday, 26th of September 2019, the National Assembly considered the request of President Muhammadu Buhari for the approval of the 2020 to 2022 Medium-Term Expenditure Framework and Fiscal Strategy paper. That same day, the request was referred to the Senate Committee on Finance and National Planning for scrutiny. 8 days after, the committees conclude their assignment and the Chairman, Senate Committee on Finance, Senator Solomon Olamilekan Adeola, presents the report.
In view of concerted effort by NNPC and security agency to combat the menace of oil theft, vandalization, the 2.18 million per barrel will be realizable.
The committee recommended 2.18 million barrels of oil production per day, adoption of $57 per barrel of crude oil, and retained 305 naira exchange rate. It also recommended that the revenue target of the Nigerian Customs Service of 942.6 billion naira for 2020 be increased to 1.5 trillion so as to reduce borrowing. Proposed budget deficit of 1.7 trillion naira was reduced to 1.5 trillion, while total capital available to ministries, departments and agencies was increased from 1.01 trillion to 1.367 trillion. There were contributions from senators.
When we go in there, make sure that we harvest all the revenue that we are supposed to harvest, block all the leakages, we have more money.
In our effort to raise funds to keep the country going, we should remember that there are some people that need to be encouraged for them to stand on their own.
There must be prudence, there must be economy in the way and manner we do procurement.
The Senate has mandated its Committee on Works to ensure adequate funding for the Bodo-Boni Road in the 2020 budget. Senator Betta Piafi raised the motion under matter of urgent public importance.
And also mandate security agencies to ensure there is adequate security presence on the Port Harcourt-Bonny waterways.
While Senator Danladi Sankara drew the attention of the Senate on the need for government to set up vocational training centers to provide beggars with alternative means of livelihood, thereby discouraging them from street begging.
Call on the federal government to formulate policy that will integrate Al-Majri into the educational system.
Chairman, Senate Committee on Media and Public Affairs, Senator Adedayo Adeyeye, briefed Senate correspondents on the 2020 appropriation bill.
We can see that things are changing. Can't you see that? The budget will be presented by next week, and hopefully we shall pass it by December. At least on the part of the Senate, I can see that we shall pass it by December by the grace of God.
The National Assembly has repeatedly assured Nigerians that it will pass the 2020 budget before the end of 2019. From the National Assembly, Ignatius Nkwo, NTA News.
Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, says Nigeria's oil sector GDP growth is projected to slow down in the year 2020 due to expected slowdown of global demand, while non-oil GDP is projected to grow faster as a result of the federal government's diversification policies and commitment. The minister was briefing National Assembly Joint Committee on Finance on the 2020 Medium-Term Fiscal Strategy. National Assembly correspondent Abdullahi Aminu reports.
In the 2020-2022 medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper, lower benchmark oil price of $55 per barrel is expected against the $60 per barrel in year 2019. The aggregate revenue to fund the budget is projected at 7.17 trillion naira, representing 2.4% or 170.41 billion naira, more than the 2019 budget of 6.99 trillion naira. 34.22% of the figures is projected to come from oil sources, while the balance is to be earned from non-oil sources.
Debt service is estimated to be at 2.45 trillion, and provision for sinking fund to retire maturing bonds issued to local contractors as well as local creditors is placed at 2.96 billion. There's a total of 3.43 trillion which is provided for personnel costs and pensions.
The value-added tax projections over the medium-term expenditure framework are based on a rate of 7.5% through a financial and miscellaneous provisions bill, which will accompany the 2020 budget proposal to the Assembly by President Muhammadu Buhari.
The proposed increase in the VAT will not adversely affect the poor, as existing exemptions of some certain category of services.
We are determined to process and pass the budget before the end of this year by the grace of God.
Contribution of the Nigeria Customs Service to the MTF, deployment of technology to survey Nigeria's 4,070-kilometer land border areas, and the economic impact of the closure of borders were also deliberated upon.
Our job is not only collecting revenue, it's security and well-being of Nigerians. And therefore, closing the border has become necessary.
It is our duty to ensure that the nation's finances will improve significantly through blocking leakages and seeking new revenue sources.
Deliberations were also made on grants and loans funded projects by the Debt Management Office. Shortfall experienced in 2018 budget due towards the senators described as low performance of the NNPC and successes recorded on the non-oil revenue collection by the Federal Inland Revenue Service. From the National Assembly, Abdullahi Aminu, NTA News.
It's time to go for a break. NTA News returns after these messages.
Papa Scholastic, now what are you doing? Emeka, drive the limousine Bugatti, come inside now. Waiting glow 200 naira recharge card for me.
200 naira.
Just recharge 200 naira for one day, and you say fit follow win for the hundreds and hundreds of heavy prizes like a can of pepper, industrial sewing machine, grinding machine, and generator. Glow, my own done better.
My grinder will go win. Now here I go put up. Make that.
Hey, make una no go recharge una glow. I don't win generator, and here now myself. Oh, the more you recharge, the more your chance the better.
Unlimited. Welcome to Adeleke University, a faith-based learning institution located in the serene and historic town of Ide, Osun State, Nigeria, running on the well-thought vision of its founding fathers to improve lives and society. The institution offers affordable and quality education. We are currently offering admission into our faculties of science, engineering, law, and art. We are also offering entry into the Faculty of Basic Medical Sciences and the Faculty of Business and Social Science. Our College of Postgraduate Studies offers you the chance to earn your master's and doctorate's degree in over 30 disciplines. For more inquiries, please visit www.adelikeuniversity.edu.ng. You can also call 0806-820-2021. Adeleke University. Education, excellence, character.
Tell you what, when will the new meters come? Because we are tired of estimated billing.
Good news, my people. The Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission has come up with the new meter asset provider regulations called the MAP. Nigeria MAP.
It is to ensure provision of meters, eliminate estimated billing, and ensure electricity customers only pay for energy they consume.
Yes.
Just go to your local electricity distribution center and request for your new meters.
Because the new meter is reliable and cheaper tariffs.
This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission.
Tectonic shifts are happening all around us. For Nigeria, the future is now. By 2050, Nigeria's population is projected to be over 400 million. This projection creates possibility, but it also poses tremendous challenges. Join the discourse at the 25th Nigerian Economic Summit, themed Nigeria 2050, Shifting Gears, as we set a new agenda for Nigeria to mark a critical strategic shift to a competitive private sector economy by 2050 through a renewed focus on investment in human capital development to achieve competitiveness and inclusive growth. Date 7th to 8th of October 2019. At the Transcorp Hilton Hotel, Abuja. For more details, visit netsgroup.org/NES25 or follow our social media channels. The Silver Jubilee Nigerian Economic Summit is organized by the Nigerian Economic Summit Group.
The Minister of Education, Adamu, and the Minister of State for Education, Honorable Chukwuemeka Nwajuba, invite education stakeholders to the 2019 World Teachers' Day celebration. Activities lined up for the event are as follows: Ministerial Press Briefing, Symposium, World Teachers' Day proper, date, Saturday 5th October 2019, venue, Eagle Square, time 9 a.m. Come, let's celebrate our teachers. Architect Sonny Echomo, Permanent Secretary, Announcer.
When you wake up in the morning, before you start your day, breakfast time is Kellogg's time. For work and for play, for a great start to your day, breakfast time is Kellogg's time.
We always start our day with a nourishing Kellogg's breakfast, powered with the goodness of grains and 11 essential vitamins and minerals. So in our family, breakfast time is Kellogg's time.
Breakfast time is Kellogg's time.
Hey, you! And are you how they talk to? I sabi you now. It's in your mind, Abi. The person with them go help us. Baba Toros and Shangalo. Ogalekuva, Mr. Sabi. And you know if we carry last for this one.
A spear into the top corner.
We sabi say Peking will crawl before in waka. So don't look, no help anybody. No dolly, no. So go for it. Go for football. Go for all Serie A and La Liga matches live. Go for GoTV Max.
Welcome back. The visit of President Buhari to South Africa is seen for many quarters as a strategic step towards fostering economic and social cooperation in the African continent. Of course, the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyeama, joins us live from South Africa. All right, let's quickly go to the next story as we were lost signals at the moment. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has appealed to the Nigerian labor leaders to show more understanding with the government and avoid embarking on any industrial action. The Vice President made the appeal when he met with some leaders of the Trade Union Congress at a closed-door meeting. Leader of the delegation and President of the Trade Union Congress, Quadri Olaleye, says the union is on a courtesy visit to the Vice President and discussed issues bordering on the new minimum wage, job creation and security, among others.
To show understanding with the governments, but I'm telling you that we are going further to discuss with governments on better ways to to achieve this, because we must.
Are you saying that if nothing is done between now and 16th, you will still go ahead with the strike?
Surely, you know, Labour will not give an empty threat or an empty ultimatum. If nothing is done, I can tell you, come that day, Labour will still go on strike.
Minister of Labour, Dr. Chris Ngige, says government will continue to negotiate with the labour union in transparent manner.
Be abandoned, and we use everything to pay salaries and wages. That's not it.
Labour has threatened to go on strike.
No, they can't go on strike. They are Nigerians.
Why would they go?
We're opening up negotiation next week, and they will lay our books open for them to see. That is one of the things there. We open our books for them to see. It's government books. They will see it. It's part of negotiation.
Now to the judiciary, where the Supreme Court has dismissed the appeal filed by Ambrose Owuru of the Hope Democratic Party challenging the victory of President Muhammadu Buhari at the recent presidential election. The five-man panel of justices led by Justice Mary Odili ruled that the suit was an abuse of court process. Olabode Arewa reports.
The Supreme Court based its judgment on the preliminary objections of Wole Olanipekun, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, counsel to President Muhammadu Buhari, and Ustaz Usman, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, counsel to INEC. They observed that Ambrose Owuru's counsel had filed two separate notices of appeal on the Presidential Election Petition Court judgment of 22nd of August 2019, which dismissed Owuru's petition against the victory of President Muhammadu Buhari. Counsel to Ambrose Owuru, Isaac Udoka, told the Apex Court that what was placed before the court were not two notices of appeal, but a single appeal and an addendum, which raised 18 issues for determination. The Apex Court found it curious that Ambrose Owuru's counsel failed to observe Section 4 of the Supreme Court rules on the procedures of filing appeals, and subsequently dismissed Owuru's appeal for being frivolous.
The judgment of the lower court, that is the petition tribunal at the Court of Appeal, has been affirmed.
That's what the court said, and we thank Almighty God. The Supreme Court, that is the last court, has struck it out.
The Apex Court took into cognizance a recent Court of Appeal judgment on the internal disputes within the Hope Democratic Party. No costs were awarded to the respondents by the Apex Courts. In Abuja, Olabode Arewa, NTA News.
The commitment and capacity of the Nigerian police to redominate the public space and deny criminals the liberty to manifest their crimes has been boosted. Inspector General of Police Mohammed Adamu, while addressing senior police officers during a conference in Abuja, wants the force to demonstrate their competence by bringing crime to the barest minimum within a short period. Francis Form tells us more.
August 2019 to date, a total of 1,151 high-profile criminal suspects have been arrested across the Federation. This includes 470 armed robbery suspects, 216 kidnap suspects, 335 suspected cultists, and 130 murder suspects. The police also recovered 228 firearms of various description and caliber, while 231 kidnapped victims were safely rescued and reunited with their families. This, the Inspector General of Police says, the tempo must be sustained.
The Nigeria Police under this management will not only continually employ strategies that are potent enough to deal with the emerging trends of crime. We are determined to attain this mandate within the dictates of rule of law, uncompromising respect for human rights, and best global policing practices. I encourage you all not to relent, but to roll out your sleeves and renew vigors in the fight against crime in the country.
On the Kogi and Bayelsa governorship elections, Mohammed Adamu assures of the police determination to work with the Independent National Electoral Commission in creating conducive and enabling environments that will guarantee the peaceful conduct of the elections.
And politics is a game, and it should be driven by service orientation, patriotism, and overriding national security interests. All political actors and stakeholders are accordingly admonished to play the political game in accordance with the law and democratic norms.
The Inspector General of Police also launched the review of the Force Order 237. In Abuja, Francis Form, NTA News.
There is a saying that one must come to equity with clean hands. This seems to be the situation as the Nigerian Television Authority (NTA) invites the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission (ICPC) to inaugurate its Anti-Corruption and Transparency Unit. Kelvin Eronaya reports that as a media outfit expected to hold others accountable, the NTA feels it needs to purge itself of corruption as well.
Much of ICPC's work is preventing corruption in the public sector, a sector seen by many as vulnerable to corrupt practices, either in procurement process and financial management, among other functions. With a mandate of the Federal Executive Council to step up its preventive mechanism through the establishment of anti-corruption and transparency units in MDAs, the ICPC is intensifying its drive. The Nigerian Television Authority (NTA) is the latest organization to have an anti-corruption and transparency unit. For the Director General of the NTA, Malam Yakubu Ibn Muhammad, the assignment is a national one for members of the committee because, as an integral part of the federal government, the NTA must show how the media can lead the way in the fight against corruption.
The media has a role to make sure that the society develops, there's growth and development in the society. The fight against corruption is just only one aspect of it. It's just an aspect. But the media is involved in every facet of our national life.
Umar Bubakar Dembo, Director of Marketing, is the chairman of NTA's Anti-Corruption and Transparency Unit. He is confident that the committee will deliver.
Just like what we were told, this is a national assignment and we're taking it as a national assignment because we all know the president has kept on saying that corruption kills this country. So we should make sure that it did not kill NTA.
Other government agencies are expected to key into this initiative. In Abuja, Kelvin Ewonwaye, NTA News.
The Joint Tax Board says it aims at achieving a tax base of 45 million people before the end of the year. This was made public during the North Central flag-off ceremony of the Tax Identification Number Registration System and Consolidated National Taxpayers Database held in Ilorin. Olukemi Sonny has details.
The new Tax Identification Number System is a novel initiative of the Joint Tax Board, which presents a consolidated tax database for the entire country. The benefits of the system, according to speakers at the ceremony, will reinforce the laudable efforts of the Buhari administration towards building a robust tax-friendly environment and ensuring a sustainable and inclusive economy for all Nigerians. The system possesses the capacity to integrate with relevant agencies, leverage on already captured data, deploy analysis to discover underlying and correlating trends. This also includes patterns that could lead to increased internally generated revenue for all tiers of government.
Over the past 4 years, the economic policies of the current administration has focused on establishing a stable foundation for further social, economic growth and development. Tax payments is integral to the growth and development of every economy, and it must be embraced by every working person who wants to see the change we all desire.
The new TIN system is also a prerequisite for a number of transactions, such as sale and purchase of immovable property, registration of vehicles, land application, import and export license registration for contractors, and entry visas, among others. The TIN system, according to the speakers, will reduce the burden of multiple registration of taxpayers, promote the ease of doing business and paying taxes. It is innovative, inspires confidence, and provides transparency. From the banquet hall of the Government House in Ilorin, Olukemi Sonny, NTA News.
Employment generation is one of the main projects. The recent resolution of the OML 25 dispute holds out for hitherto idle youths in Kula Kingdom and 8 environs. This was the submission of some of those present at the recent stakeholders' visit to oil-rich Kula Kingdom for the reopening of the Belema Flow Station and gas plant.
resolution of the protracted dispute on OML 25 is generally viewed as a welcome development, considering the economic implications attendant on the commencement of oil and gas production in the vastly endowed oil field. For most communities of OML 25, the recognition in the agreement of Belema Oil Producing Limited as a joint venture partner in the oil lease is particularly heartwarming. Belema Oil has in less than 3 years of its operation of OML 55 employed over 3,000 youths in Kula Kingdom and neighboring communities in the Niger Delta.
We believe that Belema, under Engineer Ten Jackeries, had the capacity to manage OML 25.
Founder and president of Belema Oil Producing Limited, Jack Rich Tain Jr., says his company employment policy was deliberately adopted to avert a looming social crisis in the Niger Delta.
In the next 30 years, we're going to be experiencing a population growth of about 380 million. Wow. And 65% to 75% of that population are young ones like you guys. And we're going to be dealing with a population of over 180 million in the next 30 years. And if you do nothing, then you're going to deal with a lot of social issues. I mean, if we fail to put a platform that enables business to thrive in this part of the country, then we have a major challenge.
Minister of State for Petroleum Resources is also optimistic about the future of the kingdom.
We have fought to this point, and the federal government at least has started looking our way. It is time for us to change strategy and to ensure that we begin to bring the benefits of investments to our community. If we don't make our communities peaceful, investments cannot come. The investors are ready to come here. And without the investors, there will be no jobs for our youth.
Employment generation is an integral part of Belema Oil corporate social responsibility policy, which it has adopted successfully in OML 55. The expectation is that it will replicate model as a joint venture partner in OML 25.
Let's now join Hingino in Lagos for more reports.
Thank you, Ken, and welcome to Lagos. The remarkable progress attained in the 5 years of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration in all key sectors of the economy shows that the country is on the path of next level of development. This is the submission of patriotic Nigerians under the aegis of the Buharis in the celebration of good governance. Ken Egbeluge reports.
In yearning for change in the style of leadership and need to accelerate national growth, Nigerians in 2015 voted for President Muhammadu Buhari to restore the hope of reviving the nation's economy and building a nation of their dream. The change agenda of the administration focused on security, economy, and fighting graft is the driving force for the Buharis to convert support for the administration, which believes in all-inclusive government. The policy of the federal government in regard to infrastructural development with a view to aid more foreign direct investment is described as remarkable by the group.
What we need is a cultural change, that people need to accept the fact that stealing of government funds is not the right way for the country. And so once that message is sent out, and the president is leading by setting the moral tone.
I do travel across all Nigeria. When you see the infrastructure development going up in Nigeria and the quality of job being done, then there is cause for us to celebrate.
As the country journeys through a democratic dispensation, the Buharis urge citizens to be patriotic and supportive of President Buhari's vision for Nigeria. In Lagos, Ken Igbeluge, NTA News.
In furtherance of its policy of empowering subscribers, Globacom, one of the leading telecommunication companies in Nigeria, has launched its new social empowerment promo to reward its loyal customers over the years. Awal Yusuf Jibo reports that the promo is open to new and existing prepaid and postpaid subscribers.
Codenamed My Own Done Better, the promo is designed to afford Nigerians the opportunity to win trade establishment tools with the aim of assisting Globacom subscribers become self-reliant and for alleviation of poverty.
The new promo promises to be the most exciting people-oriented empowerment promo around. It is an end-of-year treat for our subscribers. We urge these Glow subscribers and non-subscribers not to miss this opportunity. There cannot be a better time to be a Globacom subscriber than now. If you don't have a Glow SIM, please, I implore all of you to clear rush and get one.
Items up for grabs in the promo include tricycles, power generating sets, sewing machines, and grinding machines.
Globacom, as it were, is a company that places so much value on the customers. It doesn't only take, it gives back in big way.
Glow is an indigenous company. We need to patronize our own. And regardless, Glow is giving back to the society. They are empowering people for that, and they are supporting the government.
To qualify for the promo, subscribers have been advised to recharge with a minimum of 200 Naira daily, adding that the more you recharge, the more entries you make. The promo will last from October till December, and winners will be notified through phone calls from customer care agents. In Lagos, Awol Yusuf Jibo, NTA News.
That's our contribution from Lagos. Network News continues after this timeout. Please stay tuned.
Now what is
hey! Emeka, drive the limousine Bugatti, come inside now. Waiting Glow 200 Naira recharge card for me.
200 Naira. Just recharge 200 Naira for 1 day, and you say fit follow win for the hundreds and hundreds of heavy prizes like a can of pepper, industrial sewing machine, grinding machine, and generator. Glow, my own done better.
My grinder will go win. Now here I go put up. Make
Hey, make una no go recharge you na Glow. I don't win generator, and here na myself. Oh,
the more you recharge, the more your chance, the better.
Unlimited. What we are really cultivating here is a better future for all Nigerian women, and it's not always easy. Panadol Extra relieves headache, backache, joint pain, toothache, and menstrual pain. The pain is worth it.
In Nigeria, there is one sound we need to silence. So let's silence toothache before it starts with Oral-B All-Round Protection. Its advanced technology helps prevent both tooth holes and gum problems that can lead to tooth loss. It strengthens your teeth, giving them all-round protection. Because the only sound we really want to hear is that of our future. For healthier, stronger teeth in 1 week.
Welcome. Please join me. Hi. We made a reservation in the name of Mr. and Mrs. Lawrence for our honeymoon. Oh, congratulations. Just a minute, let me check, okay? Reservation confirmed. Sir. Nice suit, by the way. Tell me, what's your number?
Make and receive payments with just phone number with Pay Attitude. To get started, dial *569# or download the Pay Attitude app, or use the USSD code of Pay Attitude Banks to enjoy seamless transactions.
Thank you.
So, what's your number? Pay Attitude. Be all of you.
The buzz of alarms hails you. Captain of the home. Lady of the grind. Through the days of closed deals and office politics, the carefree laughter of your little ones drives you. Even with school fees wahala, still you continue to push and believe. And these children where you see so go grow and prosper. Because at Union Bank, there's a loan for everyone. Apply today. Union Bank, your simpler, smarter bank.
Darling, what's the matter? It's your birthday. Guests are already waiting at the pool.
It's headache, cold, pains all over my body.
Cold Time Anti-Cold Tablet and its powerful ingredients specially prepared to bring you fast relief from headache, body ache, cough, flu, cold, and fever. are you feeling now?
Wow, I feel great thanks to Cold Time tablet.
Cold Time tablet also available in syrup for children. If symptoms persist after 3 days, consult your doctor. Cold Time anti-cold tablet, a quality product from Embassy Pharmaceutical and Chemicals Limited. Cold Time anti-cold tablet, your visa to help.
The Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development is to review humanitarian engagements in the Northeast. This follows the recent suspension of the activities of 2 international NGO non-governmental organizations, NGO, in the region by the Theater Command of Operation Lafayette Dole, citing sabotage of military counterinsurgency operations. Ruth Aguela reports.
Desperate times, they say, require desperate measures. And so in building capacity for rapid response and mitigation of humanitarian crises in the country, the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development is taking strategic measures to fill up loopholes by streamlining all humanitarian engagements in the Northeast region.
We have reviewed concerns both locally and internationally on the recent concerns by the suspension by the military of the activities of these 2 NGOs in the Northeast. This suspension, which is temporary, is to enable the government to carry out a review with the view to delivering better services to the IDPs.
The minister also affirmed the commitment of the ministry to verify the allegations through ongoing investigations for a peaceful resolution. Before then, the ministry continues to engage different stakeholders to enhance coordination and collaboration to meet impending challenges and build stronger humanitarian assistance for Nigeria. The American Embassy and EU delegates were among those the minister met.
We wanted to learn more about what the new ministry is doing because we have a lot of investment in humanitarian operations in Nigeria, and so this is a natural partner, and we wanted to meet the new minister and find out what her priorities were.
And we have, of course, offered our help to support the coordination role that she will have in taking forward the assistance, making sure that it reaches all those Nigerians in need.
The minister's focus is to expand the scope through recovery and development of the Northeast for an effective humanitarian intervention. In Abuja, Ruth Aguela, NT News.
As Nigeria basks in the euphoria of our 59th independence anniversary, the High Commission in Ghana commemorates with Nigeria with a cocktail reception organized for members of the diplomatic corps, international organizations, business community and cross-sections of Nigerian community in Ghana. Nigeria's High Commissioner to Ghana, Ambassador Olufemi Michael Abikoye, in his remarks, acknowledged President Muhammadu Buhari's commitment to build on the solid foundation laid in the past 4 years with his administration's campaign, which is focused on security, economy and fighting corruption. He added that the government of Nigeria continues to work to reduce social and economic inequality through targeted social investment programs.
In the next 4 years, the Nigerian government is an ever committed to implement transformative plans in social and physical infrastructures, food security, and manufacturing sector. The subsisting excellent bilateral relations between Nigeria and Ghana are and remain a crucial one for the region.
The High Commissioner also expressed gratitude to the President of the Republic of Ghana, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the government and the good people of the Republic of Ghana for their support and brotherly love they have extended to Nigerians living in the country. President Muhammadu Buhari has extolled the courage and forthrightness of the former minister and former Nigeria's Chief of Army Staff and Chief of Defense Staff, Lieutenant General Ibola Alani Akinrinade, on his 80th birthday, saluting his steadfastness, courage and unwavering patriotism to serve the country, while joining family members, friends and professional colleagues in celebrating the gallant military officer who steadily grew in his career and stands for truth at all times. President Buhari prays that the Almighty God will grant him longer life and good health to keep sharing his experience and wisdom for national development. Similarly, President Muhammadu Buhari has congratulated the former Yobe State Governor Bukar Abba Ibrahim as he turns 70. While wishing Bukar Abba Ibrahim more years of good health, the president noted that a former governor dedicated his life to public service, working for the state and nation for many years. We go for another break. Stay with us.
Hey, you! And are you how they talk to? I sabi you now. It's in your mind, Abi. The person with them go help us. Baba Toros and Shangalo. Oga Lekuva, Mr. Sabi. And you know if we carry last for this one. A spear into the top corner. We Sabi say Peking will crawl before in waka. So don't look, no help anybody. No dolly, no. So go for it. Go for football. Go for all Syria and La Liga matches live. Go for GoTV Max.
Let's come together as we celebrate the uniqueness of our cultural diversity, showcase our creativity and ingenuity. It's the National Festival for Arts and Culture, NAFEST 2019, in the ancient city of Benin, Edo State, the heartbeat of the nation. Theme, our reality, our pride. Holding 19th through 26th October 2019. Highlights will include drama, children poetry performance, essay writing competition, crafts competition, indigenous cuisine, traditional wrestling, indigenous fabrics in royal apparel, cultural quiz competition, board games, and lots more. Oh yes, it's the National Festival of Arts and Culture, NAFEST 2019, Edo State, Nigeria, holding 19th to 26th October 2019. We are celebrating our heritage. Otumba Olusegun Unshiwe, Director General, National Council for Arts and Culture, announcer.
Welcome back. At 59, Nigeria had done well, but a more decisive effort is needed to attain the desired country. These were the views of guests on NTA Current Affairs program, Moment for Thought.
I did not have a house until I was, I remember 1984.
Let us celebrate our independence. Let us meditate on our situation.
A Moment for Thought comes tonight at 11:30 on NTA Network Service. A 10-man Nigeria's Super Falcons Thursday evening in Abidjan played out a goalless draw against their hosts in second leg of Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games. Here now is Ayodeji Makinde with other stories on Sports Update.